Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. My name is Lee Hayward, and in today's episode, we're going to dive into the topic of motivation. Specifically, how do you motivate somebody to start exercising and taking care of their health and fitness when they have some of those mental blocks that's probably holding them back? Like, on one level, they want to get in shape and they know the benefits and they know they should do it, but then there's still that friction, those issues that they're dealing with, the self-doubt and the intimidation and the uncertainty and all that kind of stuff, and just the overwhelm of the whole task ahead of them. How can you really motivate somebody to start moving forward and to take action, to kind of dive in, take the plunge, and turn their life around and embark on their health and fitness journey? And this is a big topic because everybody knows they should eat right. Everyone knows they should exercise. Everyone knows they should live a healthy lifestyle and not drink alcohol, not smoke, not do recreational drugs. And we know what we should do, but knowing it up here and actually doing it in your real life, in your real day-to-day situations is something that's totally different. So we're going to unpack that in today's episode and go into a lot more detail with it. And have a few housekeeping notes that I want to share as well before we actually get into the podcast today. First off, you're probably noticing I have my hand bandaged up here. So since our last podcast episode, I actually underwent carpal tunnel release surgery. And this is a surgery where they did an incision down through my hand to release the carpal tunnel. And it's something that I've been dealing with for quite a while, like years literally, but it's finally gotten to the point where I had some significant nerve damage and finally had to go in and bite the bullet and get the surgery done. But I have to say, so far, so good. Like, I've only had it done now for a week, but I'm already starting to see some significant improvements. Mobility is coming back into my hands again, and I'm already back into the gym. Now, obviously, I'm doing abbreviated workouts. I'm not lifting or straining my hand that's under rehab right now, but I'm still able to work around it. So I'm able to do cardio. I'm able to do gym exercises with an open hand or using machines that don't require you to grip or pull. I'm able to do that. So even though I'm going through rehab process, I'm still into the gym. I'm still keeping myself active and focusing on what I can do, not getting discouraged by what I can't do. So that's been very positive, and I'm going to be sharing and documenting my journey and my recovery process. But I do have to say, since I've had that surgery just a week ago, zero pins and needles, zero pain, tingling. So it obviously has worked in terms of releasing that median nerve that runs up through the fingers and the thumb. So that part was a success. Now all I'm waiting on is the actual rehab process to strengthen the hand so that I can get my full strength and mobility back there again. All right, so we're going to get ready now and actually jump into today's podcast. And how I actually decided to do this one was because my niece reached out to me recently, and she was sharing her fitness journey that she's going on, and she's made an incredible transformation herself. Like, she was quite heavy at one point, and she's lost a lot of weight now over the last couple of years. And in doing so, she's helped to inspire some of her friends who have seen her weight loss and fitness transformation journey, and they're wanting to get some help for themselves. Like, hey, I see you've lost weight. I see you're getting fit. And I see you doing this. What can I do to kind of emulate the results that you're getting? So she feels, that obligation in a way to pass on what she's learned and to share. So she reached out to me and asking for some advice. Like, how do you go about motivating somebody who wants to start exercising, but still has that internal friction that's kind of holding them back, those mental blocks, those roadblocks, those challenges? How do you go about helping somebody? So to really dive into this topic today, I'm going to enlist the help of one of my advanced coaching students who's gone through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, Paul Miller. And this was actually a coaching call that we did for our Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. And I decided to turn it into a podcast because it was a great call. We covered a lot of stuff, and there was some positive feedback from it. And Paul's story is a unique one. If you're not familiar with Paul Miller, he only started exercising at age 62. So for those of you who think you're too old to start, if you're less than 62, you're not. All right. Age is really only a number. And in Paul's case, he was not just not exercising, but totally against physical fitness and athletics and anything to do with going to the gym or any of that stuff. He was very much the intellectual bookworm, the scholar, the school teacher, you know, focusing on the brains over the brawn. And he was very against physical fitness, totally against it for his whole adult life up until 62, when unfortunately he had a heart attack. Well, I say unfortunately, but in the greater scheme of things, looking back at it, that heart attack actually served him well, because that was his wake-up call that he needed to turn things around. So when he was in the ER in the hospital and the doctors finally revived him, and thankfully he did survive that heart attack, he said that the ER doctor grabbed him by the wrist, looked him in the eye and said, "You've been given a gift. The universe has given you a second chance at life. What are you going to do with it?" And he said those words just burned right to his core when he heard it. And he knew right then and there, I need to make a change, right? I just can't keep going on abusing my body and neglecting it by not exercising, just eating fast food and junk food and whatever the hell I wanted. Like, his whole life was focusing on his work and then coming home and drowning himself with comfort food and television. That's basically his survival. And then he'd go to bed and wake up and do it all again the next day. Go to work, come home, drown himself with comfort food and television. And it got to the point where his weight ballooned up to over 260 pounds. I mean, he was literally a heart attack waiting to happen. And he did have that heart attack. But thankfully, he survived. And that was the wake-up call he needed. So he needed to hit rock bottom in order to have his wake-up call. But since then, he started exercising. He started to seek out help. And in fact, he started off by seeking out help from his students at the school that he taught at. And some of those, I mean, they had a gym at the school. So some of those students helped to get him started on an exercise program, helped him to improve his eating habits. And then as those students moved on, he sought out other fitness experts and coaches. And that's what led him to finding the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. So Paul and I, we've been connecting and been friends with each other now for several years. And he is a product of this program. Like, he has gone through the whole Muscle After 40 transformation journey. In doing so, he's lost over 100 pounds of weight, dramatically improved his health and fitness. And not only is he living a better life and kind of like a born-again fitness enthusiast, because he's living this and inspiring his friends and family. But not only that, he's also inspiring others in the journey as well, because he actually started a program through his local church over a year ago now that's called Fitness with Friends, where he's teaching other senior citizens the benefits of health and fitness, proper nutrition, exercise, all that kind of stuff. So they meet every single week, and he's literally taking people who are in their senior years and teaching them how to reclaim those lost years. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And because he went through that challenge, because he went through those ups and downs and literally had to hit rock bottom and start again at age 62, that gives his story so much power. Because I've mentioned this to Paul, like, if I went into his Fitness with Friends group and I started saying the exact same things that he did, they'd all just brush it off. They'd say, "Oh, you're a young man. You've been exercising your whole life. It's easy for you, yada, yada." Like, it would be in one ear, out the other, and it wouldn't have any power, wouldn't have any resonance. But because they can relate to Paul, okay, here's a guy who was 100 pounds overweight, never exercised a day in his life up until 62, had a heart attack. Like, they can relate to that. Like, that's normal stuff. And I'm sure that you know people in your own life who don't exercise. They eat whatever the hell they want. They probably drink and smoke, and they're totally, like, everything that you can do to neglect your health and fitness, like, they're doing it. It's like, check, 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 check. Yep, I'm ignoring my health and fitness. And they're totally comfortable with that. Or whether or not they're comfortable with it, they're stuck in that rut. Let's just say it that way, because I'm sure if they could change, they probably would. But they just don't know how. They don't know how to motivate themselves, or they don't know how to start that journey, or it just feels too overwhelming. And it's like, I'm too far gone. What's the point of even trying? Like, I missed the boat. Why even bother? And because Paul was in the situation he was and started again and was able to make a life-changing transformation in his 60s, his story is resonating with other seniors, and he's having a massive impact with his Fitness with Friends group at his local church, as well as people, you know, his friends and family and coworkers and people in his social circle. So I'm very honored to have him joining us today in the podcast, and he'll be sharing some insights on how we can help to motivate others and also motivate ourselves, because we all need a motivational boost from time to time. So even though the topic is how do you motivate others, you can kind of absorb some of this for yourself. If you're going through a bit of a motivational slump yourself and you need some help, by all means, this can apply to yourself as well. So without further ado, now let's just jump right into our podcast.
Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast with Lee Hayward and Jeff Samataro. Since 1997, Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding has been online helping guys to build muscle, lose fat, and become the best version of themselves. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with real-world practical fitness and nutrition advice to look your best, improve your health, and feel confident in your own skin, so you can live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back from doing the things you want to do. So if you're ready to get started, let's jump into the show.
How would you motivate and encourage someone who's new to exercise, who's probably seeing some of your results and say, you know what, I'd like to start exercising, eating right, losing weight, getting in shape? How would you motivate someone in that situation? Actually, my niece reached out to me. She was struggling with her weight for a while. She still is, but she's made amazing progress. But she reached out to me and said that at her heaviest, she was 300 pounds. And since exercising, watching her nutrition, everything, she's got herself down to 230 pounds. So she's lost 70 pounds and done remarkably well. She's a very strong girl. She sent me videos of herself in high school and deadlifting 315, as a teenage girl. So like she's a strong girl, right? Like that's pretty impressive. She's got a friend of hers now who's been inspired by her journey, and she's wondering like, how do I motivate and encourage this person? Because she sees my results, she sees my success, she's encouraged, she's kind of motivated, but got those mental blocks, she's intimidated, and she's going like, how do I get around to inspiring this person? So thinking of some ways to share with her how to inspire someone and use my own experience. I've found just from trying to help family members over the years, you can't help somebody who's not willing to help themselves, right? You can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And I've been guilty of being that positive person trying to inspire someone to get in shape when they're not ready to get in shape. Now, if they've reached out to you, that's a good sign, right? That's a good sign for sure. But again, I just want to offer that word of caution. You can't want it more for somebody than they want it for themselves. Like a lot of times I hear people say, well, like, how do I motivate my wife to work out with me? Or how do I motivate my kids? Or how do I motivate anybody? You can lead by example, and hopefully then they'll want to follow your lead, but you cannot force somebody if they're not ready.
Simon Sinek has mentioned that in his books a lot. Find your why.
Mm-hmm.
And if the stronger the why, well, Friedrich Nietzsche said, if you can know what your why is, you can endure any how. So when you are able to move forward toward your why, you will do whatever, you'll crawl through razor blades to get there. But if your why is somewhat vague and not really, has no real appeal, you'll be easily distracted. Keep reminding her of her why. Why are you doing this? What is important? Because once a person has made that switch, another book by Simon Sinek, once they've made that switch over, that's when you start pressing, why are you doing this? What is it? What's motivating? The stronger it is, the more powerful it is, the more emotion there is in it, the more it will keep that person on track.
And we can dive into that. I mean, there's different ways that you can phrase this. One that I've heard people say, like, what is your health and fitness mission statement? Like, think of your health and fitness almost like if you were a company. A company writes their mission statement, their purpose, their vision. What's yours, right? That's one way you can look at it. Another way you can look at this as well is what will happen if you do make this change? If you do achieve your health and fitness goals, whatever they may be, what will change? What's going to happen? And then a big one that will probably be even more motivating, what will happen if you don't change? And for this one, we want to think long terms, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. Like, what's going to happen if you continue on the road you've been on before this? I'm going to use an example for what I've been going through. I mentioned at the start of the call here, my carpal tunnel. right? Like I could deal with the pain. It wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, I have a fairly high pain tolerance, and the pain wasn't the big issue. Like, okay, it's a nuisance, it's a pain in the ass and pain in the hand. And I mean, it's like it's annoying, but yeah, I could deal with it. Okay, I got numb hands every now and then. Big deal. I'll stretch them, shake them, whatever. The pain will ease up. But then when I found out from the nerve test, when they say, well, that pain that you've been enduring for so long, it's caused nerve damage. And if you just keep ignoring it, in 10 or 20 years from now, you may start to lose the use of your hands. That was a big, oh, okay. If I continue down this road, I continue to ignore this, putting it off, in 10 or 20 years, I may lose the use of my hands. That's a big deal. So think of if you keep ignoring your health and fitness, you keep gaining weight, you keep ignoring it. Your blood pressure keeps getting higher, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, all this keeps getting out of control. Where are you going to be in 10 or 20 years? Are you still going to be here in 10 or 20 years? Or are you going to have a cardiac event that you may or may not survive, right? Or some other event. Right? I mean, that's a reality for a lot of people. Every one of us know people personally who's had heart attacks and strokes and cancer and diabetes and you name it, all the major illnesses. And some of them survived, some of them haven't. We've all seen that. That was my big thing. So like that was okay, I have to get surgery now to change this. I mean, it's not just a matter of okay, it's not bad enough yet. It's okay, it's bad enough. I need to make a change, right? So that was my why for this. But you can also look at it for anything. What's your why? Paul, what's your why? Like, what was your why, I should say, at the start? Like, I know your why evolves, but what was it when you started?
It started with, I don't want that to ever happen again. But then when I told that to my new friend Mehdi, the Iranian bodybuilder coach, he said, I don't like that reason because it said it's too negative. You're going to be always looking back. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back there. Why don't you look at it as what can I do to move forward? What can I do to move myself away from this to become better and better and better than what I was before? Because he said, the mind does not really process negation. You say, don't close the door, you hear, close the door. I shouldn't fly, you hear, a fly, right? So you process negation in a way that doesn't help you. It actually makes it much worse. So when you reframe things positively or with a different approach, you move away from that potential return to something negative and move on to something that's better. You improve motivation. And actually, the idea of motivation is also a bit scary too. What we want to say is, what new disciplines, what new lifestyle am I going to adopt? Because motivation is very temporal. It can go up and down, up and down, up and down. But if you see yourself as, I see this, what steps can I take to get there? What new disciplines can I adopt? How can I change my lifestyle so this leads me there? Your entire world changes. Motivation is key. I'm never going to take that away. Motivation is key. But the why is the change in your lifestyle. I wanted to become a better Paul, a Paul I'd never known before, something that I had never seen. And so it was discovery. It was, to use the Latin phrase, terra incognita. It was an unknown country where I was going to. I'd never been this way before. I'd never known this kind of strength and muscularity and stability and mobility in my entire life. And here I was doing these things. So that, I think, was key. Not wanting it, but wanting something better to become something more.
And how has that evolved? Like, is that still your driving why, or has it evolved over the years?
It has, and it's actually become even more exciting because now that I've seen what I can have done, I'm seeing what I can become. So mine is more creative. The theological concept is God does not want better men, he wants new men. So I'm, in a sense, transforming myself, not getting better, but going deeper inside and pulling out things that I never knew existed and watching that manifest themselves in my world, the way I think, the way I act, the relationships, the way I handle different things. And again, I surround myself with people who can point out these effects, they call it deleterious, these things that pull me down, and learning to let them go and say, adopt this, use this as your mind frame. I go to the gym not just simply because I can do stuff there. I go to the gym because I'm going to discover a new part of myself there. It's, as I said, it's like Christmas. I unwrap a different aspect of my personhood every time I'm there. I can do this now, and before I couldn't. So that has been the reframe. It's been much more dynamic now. I see myself as creating a new thing, creating a new person, rather than getting better or not doing this or not having so much weight. I'm becoming something completely new, and it's exciting. And really does get you up in the morning. What wonder what I'm going to be like today. I wonder what's going to be happening to me today. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can relate to that as well. Like my whys have changed dramatically over the years. I mean, when I started working out, I was very young because my dad had the old York barbell and dumbbell set, so I dabbled with that. But we actually got a home gym machine back in 1990. I was 12 years old at the time. So I had my first official home gym workout with a proper home gym setup in 1990 at the age of 12. I was working out with my dad. And back then, the motivation was I want to be bigger and stronger just for self-confidence. I don't want the bullies to pick on me in school. Right? I want to stand up to the bullies. I want to be more confident. Like that was my why at the time. And then, of course, as I built up my strength, of course, you build up respect, especially in the school environment. And then as I got older, my motivation switched to competitive bodybuilding. So in my senior year of high school, I started competing in bodybuilding. And then the competition drive, getting better and to hold my own with the other bodybuilders. Then I had the vision of, okay, I actually want to become a pro bodybuilder. I was young enough. I thought, I can do this. I can become a pro bodybuilder. This was before the days of the internet, and I didn't realize what was involved with bodybuilding. Like I didn't even know, like these guys don't use performance enhancing drugs. Like, no, they're all natural and everything. And I was so naive that I thought I'm going to become the next Mr. Olympia, and gosh darn it, I'm going to do it naturally and I'm going to be healthy. And that naivety that served me well because I pushed with that drive and that vision, and I wouldn't change a thing. Like even if I could change, I wouldn't because I was so fueled by motivation and drive. And then when I actually started to meet some pro bodybuilders, like where this really became an eye opener for me, the true world of bodybuilding, it didn't come from the internet. It came from one of our local competitions. It was a really small competition, and we had a guest poser who was a former Mr. Canada. He came in and guest posed for us, and then he did a seminar, and it was a very small seminar. Like it was literally maybe 20 or so people in the audience at the seminar, and he just told bodybuilding like it was, like the performance enhancing drug side of it, how people try and support that habit and how much money people are spending on that habit, and the dark sides of bodybuilding. I don't want to get into it here, but it's not nice. Some of the things that people have to do to support that lifestyle. It's almost like a drug addict's lifestyle in a way, in terms of how they support it and things like that. And it was just wow, like okay, this I don't really want that for me. And here was this guy. I mean, he's a former Mr. Canada professional bodybuilder, but he still had his 9 to 5 job because he said, like, bodybuilding doesn't pay the bills. You still have to make a living here. So it really gave me an eye opening to what bodybuilding's all about. Now, I still enjoyed the sport and still competed, but it really reframed my vision. Like, do I really want to be a pro bodybuilder? And then, of course, the internet started to become more popular, and I started to kind of see the truth for what it is. And now I'm glad that I didn't become a pro bodybuilder. I didn't have the genetics because that's not a lifestyle that I would like. I really isn't. It's not one that I envy at all. I mean, sometimes the magazines and then that made it glamorous, but when you see what really goes on behind the scenes, it's like, no, that's not the glamorous lifestyle because it's probably one of the most hardest sports for the least payoff. The world's best bodybuilder is not making as much as the bottom of the line like professional football player. It's crazy in that sense. But anyway, that was my why for several years, competing in bodybuilding. As I became a father, that changed things because again, I shared that story, the whole muscle after 40, right? That's where that came about because as I became a father and then didn't dedicate as much time to bodybuilding, my physique started to deteriorate. I got the dad bod. That's a real thing. I realize that now. Because when I was younger, when people say, oh, I got kids, I got responsibilities, I got this, I mean, I don't have time. And I think, what do you mean you don't have time? And then when I got kids and I realized the responsibilities, and then, oh, that's what they were talking about all these time. Right? It makes sense now. So getting in shape and setting a positive example for my son, that became my new why. And then also to inspire other fathers who are going through the same journey. That's the motivation, the why behind the whole Muscle After 40 is like, I want to be a role model for real guys that, hey, you can still have a family, have a career, still take care of your health and fitness and balance it, and enjoy the process. So that's my why. It's like, I want to inspire my family, I want to inspire my son, and I want to inspire people like you that this is real, and share it. So the why evolves.
But you shared it. You see, this is key.
Uh-huh.
You fell, you broke, you went through bad stuff, and you were willing to re-look at it and make a new why.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that is key. So every one of us who's in this group, and we fall, have a bad week or bad month or a bad year, what within that can you claim and use for your benefit? Muscle After 40 would never have happened if you hadn't created the Dad Bod. You could have very easily slunk away and closed your shutters and gone back to your life and gotten fatter and fatter and big old, as you said, a fat fuck. Was that the phrase I heard? Yes. So become one of those guys, right? Yeah. You could have easily done that. Every excuse in the book was there waiting for you, but you decided, I'm going to learn from this. And maybe there's something in it that I can pass on to other people and make something of value, not only for myself, but others and for your son. So that is, I think, the benefits. You said that things happen for a reason. I think the benefits of our failures are that it helps us to see what we can give to those around us to help them in their journey.
When I look back at some of the biggest struggles or failures or setbacks that I've had, there's always been a silver lining for us. Now, it didn't feel it at the time, and I mean, it feels like this is the end of the world. This sucks. Why am I doing this? And in that, like, it's the hero's journey. Like, you always have that low point, and like, is this even worth continuing on? Like, you almost feel like throwing in the towel. But then when I look back at it, okay, because of that struggle, because of that failure, then I created this, or I got better, or something positive came about, some way, some shape, some form. Because I was getting bullied in school, which that doesn't feel good. That I don't want to go to school. I'm getting bullied. That motivated me to start to take care of my health and fitness, build my body, build it bigger and stronger so the bullies wouldn't pick on me anymore. That was a very positive thing from a very negative thing. Getting the dad bod, getting fat and out of shape, and then saying, hey, I don't want this for my family. I don't want my son to see his dad being overweight and out of shape and thinking it's okay for him to be overweight and out of shape and pass those habits on to him. So me getting overweight and out of shape, that created the pain that, hey, I wanted to do something different here. So all these things, like there's a silver lining, and I'm going through some challenges now in other areas. I mean, okay, I don't see the benefit right now, but I'm sure there will be. When I look back, like people say, oh, if you could do things different, would you do them different? Or if you go back and change the past, I don't think I would, because every negative led to a positive, right? So I don't think I would change anything. Like, I believe everything happens for a reason and a purpose.
You have to have the courage to be able to weather through that, to walk through that.
Weather the storm.
And being here with these people, this is why this VIP coaching circle is so critical, because all of us together have things that we can contribute, ideas that we can share, stories that we can tell one another to say, I know this hurts Paul, or I know this hurts Mike, I know this hurts my friends, but this is what I learned from it. Okay, I'll hang in there. I'll keep pressing on.
Yeah.
It's one day at a time, one step at a time, one failure that you turn into a success at a time. But it's going to happen. It's going to be painful. You're going to hate every second of it. But when you recognize that through that horror, through that darkness, you're going to find some moments of light and inspiration and insight, it makes you brave enough to walk through it. In my Christian tradition, no temptation for the moment seems endured, but when you go through it, it creates a much better reward, a weight of glory, as it's called. And so that powerful theological principle bears its weight and bears its fruit in other areas of our lives. We owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude for your willingness to see your fall and do something about it to help us all.
I appreciate that. And I want to just break things down to another level here. I refer to this as the health triangle, and I didn't come up with this. This is something that a lot of fitness coaches will refer to. I mean, there's three basic things that we need to focus on in order to improve our health and fitness, exercise, diet, and sleep. Those are the three things you need to focus on. When we look at trying to motivate someone who's new to health and fitness, a lot of times we make that too big. Oh, this is too overwhelming. And the thing that I always like to reinforce is you don't have to overhaul your entire diet and lifestyle at once. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than you were before. Good enough and good enough consistently. I keep rehashing that over and over again. Or we want to be consistently good versus occasionally great. When it comes to exercise, when it comes to diet, and when it comes to sleep. And another way that I like to look at it is instead of the all or nothing, which a lot of people fall into, almost like a light switch. I'm all in or I'm all out, right? It's all on or off, right? It's like a light switch. We want to operate like a dial where we can turn it up or turn it down, but you never ever turn it off, right? We can dial it up and we can dial it down, but we don't turn it off. The power of taking small steps versus this all or nothing big step approach. Like when people say, I want to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, or I want to have the perfect diet, the perfect workout, it's too big of a step. It's just like when we're trying to climb that ladder there and then the picture. If that first rung is too big, you're never going to reach it. Like you're going to struggle. And this is where a lot of people struggle is they're down here trying to take that too big of a step, too big. Whereas you can take small step after small step and make strides over the people who are trying to do too much too soon. Like an analogy or a quote I've heard, like start small but dream big and keep moving forward. I'm just wondering, like, what are some small action steps, that we could recommend to somebody who's really struggling with getting started with a health and fitness routine?
With my seniors, I make it approachable. Choose something with protein, choose something with veggies at every meal.
Yeah.
But now I've started gotten even more micro for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Something with protein, something with veggies. You can eat your potato chips and cookies for the rest of the day, but at least you're gonna claim breakfast,
Yep.
and then lunch, and then supper, and then snacks, and over time you're gonna add. Well, I'm eating cookies and shreddies for the rest of the day. Yes, but you claimed breakfast. That's yours, and start claiming more and more territory. John Maxwell, in one of his leadership books, says you go to a tree with your sharpened axe and knock it just down 5 times. You go back the next day, 5 times. Over time, that tree is going to fall. But if you try to whack at it 100 times, you'll be worn out and say, "Oh, this is too hard. The tree isn't falling. I'm giving up." But one whack at a time, 5 whacks. Come back next time, 5 whacks, and that tree is going to fall. The same with our diet and exercise. Little bits, like you said. So I claim breakfast now. So let's claim breakfast and then move them forward. One lady was very triumphant and said, all 5 of my meals have protein and veggies. And I gave her a big hug and I said, "Oh, Lois, well done." Right? And she was so happy. 94.
I love her. Wow.
I love her. 94. At 94, she's doing this. And I think this is wonderful.
I love that. Like start off small and one meal at a time. Because again, a lot of times we make it too big, and it's too overwhelming. So I mean, some of the common excuses, like we just want to share this. Like a lot of times it's too hard. I don't have time. When it comes to diet, I don't like going hungry. Healthy food doesn't taste good. I can't afford it. I'll do it later. It's not that bad yet. Like we can exert excuse upon excuses. Like how can we make those excuses smaller? Or let's just focus on instead of eliminating food, how about we just add in the protein, add in the vegetables? That's one that I love to do. Like a lot of times when people think of diet, they think of what do I have to cut out? What do I have to avoid? Like, I got to cut out carbs. I got to cut out this. I got to cut out that. And they think of everything they got to cut out. I say, like, let's don't even think about what you got to cut out. What do you need to add to make that eating better? How about we add in some protein? How about we add in some vegetables? How about we drink more water? How about we add in those things? And by adding in the good things, you naturally squeeze out some of the not so good things. Because if you filled up your belly with protein and vegetables, there's less room for dessert and sweets and the not so good choices. If you start your day with a good solid breakfast and you stabilize your blood sugar throughout the day, you're less likely to be binge eating on cake and cookies and potato chips in the evening. That's one of the, oh, I got to talk about this as a pet peeve of mine, and I've experienced it so often. People say, well, I don't eat breakfast, and they think they're doing wonderful because they hear all about this intermittent fasting and think, well, I don't eat all day, I don't eat all day. But then once the evening comes, there's no holding the back. It's like opening up the floodgates. And then they'll have their dinner, then they'll eat whatever the heck they want, and then they're into the potato chips and they're into the cookies and they're into the ice cream, and then the next morning, because they ate all that crap the night before, they're not hungry in the morning. I mean, your body's still digesting chips and cookies and ice cream, and all that gunk is still in your system. So, sure, you're not going to wake up hungry the next morning. So then you go the next day, you get caught up in your work and your chores and your errands and drinking your coffee to curb your appetite. Nothing, 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 nothing. And then you start the whole cycle all over again. And then when you go all day without eating, it's so easy to justify, well, I deserve to have a slice of pizza, or I deserve to have a burger and fries. After all, I didn't eat anything all day. I deserve to have this. And it just is a negative spiral. And then people wonder, how come I'm fat, but I fast all day long? Whereas if you have your breakfast, have a good solid breakfast with protein and high nourishing foods and foods that are going to nourish you on the cellular level, you not only do you help provide that muscle building stimulus, but you stabilize your blood sugar. And then by the time the evening rolls around, like, I'm not really all that hungry. I don't feel like raiding the refrigerator at midnight because my appetite has been stabilized throughout the day. And that's a big learning curve for a lot of people.
But underneath all of these things, all of these excuses have one huge umbrella issue. I don't want this. If you want something, you will fight off hordes of wild animals to get there because you want this. So when all the excuses come up, my one response to the student is, how badly do you want to succeed? How much do you want to repair your life? How much do you want to get better? If you don't, nothing I suggest will work. You can come up with every single excuse and I can respond to it. But the excuses are coming out of this heart that says, I don't want this. And so I'm going to fight you off. Well, that sword didn't work. I'm going to take out my dagger now. Well, that dagger didn't work. I'm going to take out my bow and arrow. I'm going to attack you in some way with an excuse so I can justify my life. If I can awaken the desire to see how wonderful it is to pursue this, the excuses disappear completely. And in their place comes, I think I could try this. And maybe if I did this, and maybe I could go here, and encourage that. So when I talked to my seniors, I said, you are here. That is the hugest step you took. You came. And what I'm going to do is just simply reinforce the reasons why you came. And I'm going to build your vision to see a senior adult that is vibrant, full of life, full of energy.
Right.
Because if you don't have that, the excuse, you're going to say, I don't really want to do this. It's so hard and it's so cold. It's minus 30. Oh yeah, I know Paul's going to be out there, but he's weird anyway. If it's so important, you will do anything. Black Friday, people want those bargains. They don't care if they're there for their sleeping bags at 4 a.m, camping outside the department store. They want that bargain, and they will do anything. People go to a movie. The Lord of the Rings movies, people were camping for days outside the theater trying to get in there. You say, it's so early, this movie theater. They were there, right there, because they wanted it. So the question is always, how much do you want this? The degree to which you want it will be the degree to which those you will work toward it, and those excuses will wither and die. They'll be like leaves on the tree. They've lost their energy, and they'll fall off naturally. But try to pull them off, you damage the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Let them fall naturally. But again, why does the tree lose its leaves? Because it's getting ready to grow. You're getting ready to grow. You're going to become a new person. No matter how many excuses I address, the root is, I don't want this.
I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because that is so, it goes right back to the beginning again, as I mentioned, like, what is your why? And if the why isn't strong enough, then the excuses will beat it. And as you mentioned, it comes down to, I don't want to. Because when people say, I can't afford it, I'll do it later, or it's not that bad yet, it's really, they're saying, I don't want this. I don't want to change. This is where foreseeing the future comes into play. Where do you want to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? Like, where do you want to be in the future? And is your current path leading to the future you want, or is it leading to a future you don't want? Again, I'll use myself as an example because this is front and center in my mind now. I didn't want to get surgery on my hand. I don't want to be laid up for the next 3 months unable to work out. Like, I don't want that at all. But in 20 years, I want to be able to pick up my grandkids. I want to be able to function as a normal human being. I don't want to be nerve damage has gotten so bad in his hands. He can't pick anything up. He can't take care of himself. Heaven forbid. I mean, I could be in my 60s and someone had to spoon feed me because my hands don't work anymore. That's potentially where I was headed.
I
But
want to be vulnerable here and say, people have said, well, if you were so smart, how come you weren't healthier earlier? And you can justify your situation with amazing mental acrobatics. The mental gymnastics that I put my mind through to avoid becoming healthy and strong would have made jaws drop. And if over time, I began to hate my life. I began to despise my life, and I became full of despair. And the phrase you learned was learned helplessness. Because I had trained myself to not like what I am, I got used to it. And it was not until that dire situation that broke the rope and I said, oh, I can do something about my life. I've met hideously overweight, unhealthy academics who are brilliant, absolutely brilliant in their field, that will die. And think of the heritage, the mental heritage that they are going to sacrifice because of their lack of paying attention to their physical world. It's not so important. That platonic separation of spirit and mind must stop. We are combined people. We're not just mind, we're not just muscle. We're a unique combination of beautiful things that need to work in harmony. And when they don't work, the world pays a heavy price. We've lost some fabulous mathematicians and scientists, some academicians that without their presence in the world, we're headed for chaos. They could have contributed so much, but their health killed them. Jordan Peterson attacked that mindset. He absolutely devastated it, and he's in phenomenal physical condition. And he's a phenomenal mind. I may not disagree with much of what he says, but at least he's doing something to speak toward a world. And now he's on another tour, We Who Wrestle with God. And at his particular, at your age, he doesn't see it that way at all. He's in perfectly fine health because he's dedicated himself to a wholeness of life. I wish I'd met him earlier. I probably could have been a much better individual. But because I have met him or have encountered him and heard his idea about wholeness of life, which is including to health, think of what he's contributing. Think of what he's going to continue to contribute. So all of those people in this world who are losing their weight, you are going to add to the heritage of civilization because you were around to give your trade, your skill, your mindset, your value. I'm 70 and I can still be around to contribute to the rest of the world. I was not, and this is where it's vulnerable, I was not healthy enough, Lee, to pursue my PhD. I could not get it because I was physically drained. I could not handle the mental rigors. And I was sick, often in the hospital, And I sacrificed a potential PhD because of my bad health. Yes, I'm filled with regret, filled with it. But I've given it over and I'm building a new person. And in the midst of this loss of a PhD, I'm gaining, as it were, postdoctoral education through my life experiences with you all. And so out of that moment of vulnerability, I could have had all of these things. I could have been a stellar intellect, a phenomenal scholar. I know that. But I gave it all up because I didn't care to exercise, because I had this arrogance in me, all muscle and no mind, all brawn and no brains. I'm not going to be that. Wow. So I will honestly admit, Lee, yes, I was so smart. No, I knew stuff. I was not smart. I knew things. I collected mental trivia, but I was not smart. If I had been smart, I would be this or better. I was not smart. I wanted to share that with the group. Decades of dumb.
It takes a lot of courage to come to that realization and to admit it and to share that, because the Paul of 10 years ago would not have said that.
Ever. And he would have fought you tooth and nail and made you look like an idiot to try. Lee, don't wrestle with me in the debate world. You are dead meat. But because I chose to fight against it, I nearly died. Now I'm using every mental power in my equipment to promote, to accelerate, to celebrate the fitness world, the wholeness of it, a lifestyle as opposed to just bodybuilding. It's an entire lifestyle. And so I'm using every mental tool in my toolbox to promote the fullness of life in this particular area as well. So I'm very much on your side.
Appreciate you for sharing that. Again, you're not alone with that, because every day when I make posts or post videos, I mean, I get messages and emails from people who are trying to look for the excuse or the out, or however they justify it. Again, it's instead of coming to the realization to say, I need to make a change. Like, no, I'm good where I am and everybody else is wrong because, like in your case, you mentioned is all brawn and no brain. So I'm right because I have the brain. You're wrong because you have the brawn. Instead of realizing, hey, there's a synergy. There's a compromise in between here. We can have both.
And I like meeting scholars who are bodybuilders. Yes. I really like them. I have immense respect for Dr. Eric Helms and Dr. Eric Trexler, who are stellar intellects, but they're also phenomenal bodybuilders. Dr. Eric Helms went on the bodybuilding stage again and won, but he's remarkable in the lab and with science. His medical knowledge, his mental skills are breathtaking, but he's also a phenomenal athlete. And I have tremendous respect for him for that and Dr. Trexler. There are others out there who are probably in there the same field. Mass Magazine features a lot of these people. So you can downplay my journey as well. Well, he's so old and really he's not all that big. Fine, attack me. But I hate to break this to you, but what are you doing? One finger points out, three fingers point out. Right. So while you're pointing out all of my faults, how are we doing? How's it going with you? Is your life all on track? Are you celebrating the richness of your life? Can you call yourself an Imago Dei, made in the image of God, or are you kind of like an Imago wannabe? I'm kind of like the image of God, but I'm not quite there yet. So that kind of arrogance can go back. You can point out the faults, but what are you doing? And that's why I can say, well, if you're so smart, how come? Yeah, okay, I'll embrace that. I'll take that full on the chin. But I will be vulnerable in saying I admitted it, and I'm willing to admit it. And you're talking to a Mensa scholar here. And I know I was brilliant, but I was not wise. I was not smart enough to see the dangers. And that's why I pass that on to people. Learn your why. Learn it, find it, draw on. The best motivation of all is find people who will reinforce the first step you've taken. Well done. Now let's take a second step. Yes, you took the second step. And 3 and 4. Lao Tse's A Journey of 1,000 Miles begins with one step. But he did not stop there. Lao Tse wrote many analects, many observations about life. He didn't just have one particular aphorism and that he leaned on that. Yes, I wrote this. Aren't I a great philosopher? No, he wrote more because he had more to share. There are more steps ahead of you because they are so pivotally important. But surround yourself with people who will celebrate every single step. And if you don't, find them. Come here. We'll celebrate with you.
And learn to celebrate your own victories and feel good about yourself. Be proud of yourself for when you do things, because this is something too. Like it's nice to get around people who are going to pull you up to different levels, but you can't rely on that. And I was having this conversation with some people who they get caught up with their training partners. Like, okay, I had a training partner or a close friend or someone who motivated me to start. And we were working out together and things were great for however many months or maybe a year or something like that. But then this person moved away, this person stopped working out, this person, whatever. And then when they stopped, I stopped. You have to have that internal drive, that internal motivation to keep going regardless of the situation, because you may have to start all over again and create a new support network. And that's something that it's hard to do, but we have to be more self-motivated or self-reliant, not like I'm doing this because someone's making me or someone's encouraging me or someone's counting on me. Like you got to have the kind of some internal gumption there that I'm doing this for me or for a higher purpose.
When I lost Mehdi and James, I found you.
Yeah.
The loss of them drove me to look further, and I came upon you. I like that environment that you've created. You talked about the importance of motivation, and we wanted to talk about how do we motivate? What can we say to motivate persons?
Yeah.
That switch in that dial, there is another aspect that's even more exciting than just the switch in the dial. That thermostat versus the thermometer idea. Thermometers react to their environment. Yeah. Thermostats adjust their environment. So not only is it just on and off, but now you can not simply react, but you can respond. You can change. You can do things to amend your environment. If the gym is closed, resistance bands. If you don't have resistance bands, there are parks. Dive deeply into your creativity to find ways to train yourself so that you've got a training environment. On off is not just simply I've had a bad workout, I might as well quit. On off could be, oh, the gym's closed. Now what do I do? Well, right. Become the thermostat and adjust that environment so that you can grow. You can turn up the heat, as it were, on how you can become an athlete in a different way. COVID, almost people thought, well, that's it. Paul's finished. COVID's gonna shut him down. No, it actually made me think more creatively about how to develop my physique with resistance bands and the parks around my neighborhood. And you said they were always there, but I didn't really see them. Well, now I was given a chance to see them. Mm-hmm. Training in -0 weather, -20, -30 degree weather. I wanted this. My excuse could have been, oh, it's too cold outside. No, that was not, I wanted this. And so I got the gloves and I got the clothes and I shoveled the snow away from all the equipment so that I could use it because I wanted this. Mm-hmm. So that for me was very important. How much do I want it versus what reasons can I lean on that give me an excuse to not train today? So I did not see it that way. And I'm very encouraged by the negativity of COVID opened my mind to see how creative I can be. So take that negative, respond. How can I change my environment to do something good rather than just simply the on-off switch is good and the dial is good, but on-off can be applied in so many other things. That's just simply reacting. Begin to respond.
I love how you brought that up. Again, like you set your temperature so that regardless of the environment, you can respond accordingly. And like when we set the temperature, if it gets too hot, the air conditioning is going to kick in to cool it down. If it gets too cold, the heaters are going to kick in to warm it up. You're the same way. Like you adjust to your environment because life is going to throw, stuff your way, good and bad. You respond accordingly. I love that. I'm glad you brought that up. So thanks so much. And with the whole COVID thing, I want to just dive into that again. It's amazing how we see two totally different responses. Now, I mean, for the mass amount of people, it was a very negative thing. There's been more weight gained and more health problems come about because of that. At the same time, I seen some amazing physique transformations during that time. I mean, you were one of them. I mean, you've used it and made great progress. Like some of the guys in our group, like Mike Brown, he achieved like an amazing transformation during the whole lockdown period. I mean, he had a home gym and he took full advantage of it. There were several other guys working out from home, made amazing transformations. Jeff Samatero, another example, like he made the bulk of his transformation during COVID. So many guys I can think of, like some of the best success stories that I've ever seen happened during that COVID time. It's amazing. That's when I got really serious into cycling because, okay, I mean, I always rode my bicycle for fun and recreational as my cardio tool for bodybuilding. Like I never ever stopped riding a bike as a kid, and I continued on. As bodybuilding competitions rolled around, I had to do my cardio. Well, I'm going to walk some days. I'm going to use the cardio machines at the gym some days. I'm going to ride my bike some days. Like I just for variety, I was always riding my bike. But then during that lockdown period, okay, I'm going to take bike riding more serious. And then I started studying it more and realized, hey, it's not just riding your bike. Like you can actually train for fitness on your bike. And I got more structured with it and started diving into the endurance world. And that opened up my eyes to like, wow, there's a whole other world of fitness in the endurance side that's total separate from the strength and bodybuilding side. And that made me a more well-rounded coach. But I found this new love of endurance sports. Before that, cardio was just a fat burning tool. Like it was just a calorie burner. It was fun. I mean, sure, I enjoyed getting out biking and hiking and whatever, but I never knew what VO2 max was. I never knew what your power output was or any of that stuff. It was just cardio was just a fat burner. That's the way I looked at it. The typical meathead bodybuilder approach to cardio, right? Cardio sucks, is just for fat burning. But now I've opened up this whole world, and that was big thing because of the whole COVID. Because okay, I can't be going to the gym. What else can I do? And it's amazing the sport of cycling exploded during COVID because when people couldn't go to the gym, well, what else can we do instead?
Right.
And the cycling industry has never seen a boom since. Like bike shops around the world were sold out and back ordered on bicycles during that whole COVID period because there's just such a demand and such a small inventory. It
As
was
with resistance bands.
yeah, like fitness home gym equipment went through massive shortages. Like people
Yes,
couldn't go fast enough.
right. But within all of that, beneath that, the one element I wanted to bring up with that idea of motivation is also trust.
Mm.
Is this person is this activity worth my time? Can I trust in it? I've tried this and failed, like the diets that fail. They lose trust. And so they don't want to try it again because the trust has disappeared. But when we find places where we can stand confidently, I can trust this. And I can take another step, and I can trust this. I can trust this person. I can trust this environment. I can trust this approach. Then you begin to create a lifestyle that you can rely on and build upon. I knew that COVID would have been long term. I sensed it was going to be much longer. I lost my job. I lost everything that was valuable to me during that time. Gone. But what I did not lose was my creativity. And so I built on that and built on that, trusted it. I trusted it, and I could grow incrementally. Find environments that you can trust. Find people you can trust. Find procedures you can rely on to move you forward. Because trust is another element, not just simply being inspired. Because inspiration, like motivation, can disappear. But trust is built, and it's a reliable step, that platform that you can move forward on. We trust you, and we're grateful for you.
And to go along with that, I mean, right at the start, when Bill was sharing, he trusted the process and kept moving forward. Having a process that you can trust, because nowadays there's so much the quick fix, the red shiny ball, like in the diet and fitness industry, like, oh, we'll try carnivore, and if that doesn't work, we'll try vegan. If that doesn't work, try paleo. And why not try well balanced eating instead of thinking I have to eliminate something? Like, let's just focus on nourishing the body, eating more, burning more, building the body stronger, and then letting it burn the body fat instead of just trying to deprive. Or, oh, I'm going to jab in this, Ozempic or Mounjaro or Wegovy or whatever. I'm going to inject myself with a medicine that makes me sick when I eat and makes me nauseous. So I throw up and I don't even want to eat anymore. And that's going to be my solution. I'll turn myself from food so it makes me stomach sick. Okay, well, you don't eat as much because you're sick. Is that really a healthy way to lose weight? Like, I mean, that sounds so messed up.
That reason, like I want to inject myself with something, is the fact that I want something outside of myself
Yeah.
to do the work that I myself should be doing to
Yeah.
make it work, rather than saying, this is me. I mean, Jack Canfield's success principles, his number one is take 100% responsibility for your life.
Mhm.
And that is a serious success principle. So you take 100% responsibility for what you eat, where you go, how you act, how much you sleep. It's all up to you. 100% responsibility. And that's his number one, his very first success principle. And he's got, I think, 30 or 40 of them in his book, Six Success Principles. But John Maxwell, who is a very well-known teacher of leadership, talks about the essential, how essential it is for you to take the reins and make sure that you're going where you want to go. There is a bit of a debate about being in control of my life, and I'm going to be the captain of my fate and the master of my destiny. I have some struggles with that. But down deep in the core is the choice is up to you.
Yeah.
I cannot choose it for you. I can make it as alluring and as attractive and as vibrant with life, but you have to choose it. The Garden of Eden, the fruit looked good. It looked very good. And what it offered was really good. But they forgot the ultimate choice was this eternal lovely relationship for this temporal choice. What temporal choices do you make and have sacrificed the long-term benefits and pleasures? That cookie is so good, but look what you've gotten as a result. That marshmallow sundae was to die for. Yes, and you're going to die for it. You know? So all of these things, those momentary fleeting desires, are true and they're wonderful. And I will never put away, there isn't a calorie I've never not liked. But what calories are helping me, what calories are hurting me?
Right, and this is going to pay off. Like, I mean, as I'm saying, trust the process. This is part of the process. People who show up to these calls on a regular basis, who are partaking in the journey and just taking it day by day. I mean, it may not seem like it now. Is like, okay, I look the same in the mirror today as I did yesterday. Like nothing's happening. It's not happening fast enough. But a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I mean, in Paul's case, what is it? 8 years for you now, Paul? Is
7 years, yes. Well, technically 8, but 7 years, yes. And that's why it's this
Yeah.
7-year journey.
Looking back, I mean, 7 years ago, you could have been saying like it's not happening fast enough.
There
You
would have
went,
been no saying, I would have been dead.
but even when you started the journey, like
Yeah.
still, you got around people who helped to reinforce
Right.
this.
Yes.
Still, you know that whole I worked out today. Where are the muscles? Right? I ate clean today. How come I'm still fat? Like it's not happening fast enough, and it never does. But then once you start doing it, like a year goes by, 2 years, 3 years, four, then all of a sudden, like you're a different person. It's almost like that's where the real transformation. And I love sharing Mike Brown's journey because I mean, in a matter of 4 years, like he's totally transformed his life and at a relatively older age. He started at 56, and in your case, you started at 62. And I love using that as the example of it's never too late to make a change. So many people like I'm too old. That's one of the big excuses. I even get it now from people in their 30s reaching out. I'm too old. I missed the boat. Paul, imagine if you could start in your 30s or in your 40s. Where would you be now?
Oh my goodness, it's one of the most exciting questions you could have asked. What I would like to say that though is I'm glad where I am now. I'm grateful to be where I am now. And I'm moving forward with all of the knowledge, enthusiasm, and insights you've given me. That is the best gift that life has given me. But oh, I learn. Oh, I learn and learn and learn from this group, constantly writing down things I'm learning.
And the fact that you've turned things around now at the age of 70, I mean, you're a totally different person.
Yes.
That gives you so much more power to speak to other seniors who are now starting again in their 60s and 70s and beyond. Like your words have more power than some, like I could say the exact same words and it would just be, well, he's a young man. Look, it's different for him. I mean, he's always been exercising. Like they can't relate. It wouldn't resonate. But the fact that you waited until you were 62, that you hit rock bottom, that gives your story so much more power. And now when you share that, reclaiming the lost years, you can truly speak from experience. And that would not have happened if you started when you were in your 20s or 30s or wherever.
But I will not negate the fact that I'm very grateful for those friends who are here who are starting in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, that I will cheer them on because their years ahead will be so much richer, much fuller, much more encouraging. And the people that they can inspire, there'll be more opportunities to inspire those around them. And I'm so glad. I can't be happier.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast, and if you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please feel free to share it with them. I mean, if you could help us to spread the word, that's going to help to get this message out there and allow us to create more content like this and reach more people and just create that positive impact all around. And if you would like some help with your own fitness goals, maybe it's building muscle, losing fat, improving your health, getting in your best shape. If you would like some help with that, then feel free to reach out to me. I have my contact information down in the show notes below, and you can book in for a free one-on-one strategy session coaching call with me, and we can discuss a realistic action plan that's right for you. And if I feel that you're a good fit, I may invite you to come on board and join our VIP coaching program. And if it's not a good fit and I feel that I'm not the right person to help you, then I'm not going to give you hype or BS, but I will point you in the right direction to somebody who can help you. I mean, I've got a large network of people in the fitness industry. So if I don't feel that you're a good fit for our coaching program or that I can help you, I'll be able to point you in the right direction to somebody who can. So either way, at the end of your free strategy session coaching call, you'll walk away with better insights on what you need to do next in order to reach your health and fitness goals. So that clues it up for today's episode. And we'll be back again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with another episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Take care. Over and out.